How's it, everybody? My name's Tim, and this is my beautiful bride, Annie. And we've been married for 11 years, and we've got 3 children, Joa, Katie, and Thato. And Isaac's asked us to share with you how Thato became part of our family. And so we thought we'd share that for Testimony Tuesday.
So when we first got married, I had been thinking about adoption for a while, and I mentioned it to Tim. I said, how about it? And he hadn't thought of it before, and he was like, no. But 2 years later, 2 children later, he said to me, well, how about maybe we should think about adopting our third. And by that time, I had my hands full with children, and I couldn't think of a third child at that point. So we just started praying that if this was God's will, that He would bring us both onto the same page at the same time, and just give us both a sense of this is what He was leading us to. And when Katie was about 2 or 3 years old, we really did both start to sense that this is what God was leading us to and was something we should start pursuing.
Yeah, and it wasn't just like an interest in adoption or a passion for adoption. It really became a conviction. God laid a burden on our hearts that's something that He wanted us to do. And, well, not a heavy burden, but a joyful burden of something that He wanted us to pursue. And so we started that process, and because we had not been terribly exposed to adoption, we had to prepare ourselves. And so we attended a conference on adoption and the reality of cross-cultural adoption in South Africa, which is a reality that we face as South Africans. And so that was a specific conference that dealt with that, which taught us so much. We spoke to social workers, we spoke to people who had adopted, just tried to read books, try to gain as much information as we could, and obviously prayed a lot. We prayed a lot through that process of preparing ourselves for what we felt God wanted us to do.
Yeah, and it was great to see, initially our sense of timing. I was really hoping that the gaps between our children would be smaller, that they would be closer in age growing up. But just to see that wasn't God's timing. And what we kind of through the process saw as delays, later on we realized that was God putting those there, because He had chosen Thato to be in our family and us to be the family for Thato. And which was just wonderful to realize that and to see it. And just to see God's hand through all of those perfect timing of everything.
And there were some big delays. My dad eventually became quite ill with cancer, and then unfortunately passed away. And shortly after that, COVID hit the country, and that stopped the progress with our social worker. We used ABBA Adoptions in Pretoria. But eventually, near the end of last year, in the last 4 months of last year, the process really started moving forward, and ABBA Adoptions really impressed us. It's wonderful to have a social worker who's actively praying with you through the process and desires to see you matched with the child that God wants for you. And that is just, it's a wonderful, there's no better way to do it, I don't think. And so, it got to January this year, and we had our house visit where the social worker comes into your home and speaks to your children and inspects your home in a sense to write the final report. And then in February we were matched.
Yeah, so we brought Thato home on the 17th of February after just meeting him that day. But it's
interesting experience.
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking and exciting, but it was just wonderful to see how God went before as well, even with Joa and Katie, just preparing them, and just their excitement and joy and love for their little brother, and Thato's love for them. It's really been wonderful to see how God has really worked in that and worked it out, and really prepared us as a family well. And that's been wonderful to see.
I think something that people often worry about, perhaps with adoption, is that you go and choose a baby and that you're in control, and what if I make the wrong choice? And the reality is that it's nothing like that. And there are 1,000 variables in the adoption process that you as parents have no control over. And it's a wonderful thing to know that, and to put your hands up in the air, just like a biological child. You leave it up. The development of that little baby in utero is in God's hands. And as adoptive parents, those 1,000 variables, they're in God's hands. You have little to no influence over any of them. And to just say, God, you're sovereign, and we're trusting you, and you're going to do the right thing. And that to us has been a wonderful experience during this process. And so if there's people out there who are watching this and are interested in adoption, perhaps want to support adoption in some way, we're not the most experienced people out there, but we'd love to share a little with you of what we have experienced, perhaps point you in the right direction if you want to get involved in some way. We know that there are parents who would love to adopt but can't for various reasons. There are so many ways that people can get involved in adoption. And we'd encourage you to do that. And we look forward to seeing what God has in store for us over the next few years as we grow together as a family. And hopefully another Testimony Tuesday sometime in the future with Thato sitting talking between us. But tonight he's in bed already. But thanks for letting us share this short testimony with you.